Shalom Aleichem. Welcome to Tanya Outside In. We are holding in Perek Beis. I had a terrible charata from last week that I really didn't give. I didn't give over something that was extremely important. Just this is a share for the Ili Nishmas of Eliakim. Just missed it 1 minute. Eliakim Getzel ben Yitzhak Halevi. Should all be well for him wherever he is. So I mentioned the Nefesh Bahamis, the Nefesh Achiyunis, the life-giving soul of the body, the soul of the soul, we call it. We said it exists within the blood, like in a sense, like electricity exists within battery acid. So to call it spiritual, is that would you call electricity spiritual? I mean, probably, it's not really physical. It's not really spiritual. It's like the point of that soul, and this is what we didn't mention, which I should have mentioned, is its MO is to be. It just wants to be. Not meaning like be as in like, just leave me be, let me chill. Not like that. Meaning it could be like that. But it wants to be. Like the opposite of it wants to not be. It wants to exist. And that is our struggle. That is our struggle. Our struggle sounds funny, is to be or not to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really how it is. That's our struggle, to quote a famous, potentially Jewish playwright from the 1600s.
Sorry, could you state that again, Rebbe? You said the struggle is to let the Nefesh Behemi be?
No. The struggle of the Jew is to be or not to be. And we're trying not to be, which sounds very kind of like, Buddhist or Jainist, but it's not at all like that. We'll explain B'ezrat Hashem. But the point is that we're going to start talking about the Nefesh Elokis, the Neshama, in a few moments, B'ezrat Hashem. But we need to get straight that the Nefesh Bahamis, the soul that enlivens the body, that allows me to go like this, that allows me to walk and to talk and to think and all these things of the stuff of this world, its whole thing is about being. It wants to be. Now that translates as into the survival instinct, but it also translates into the desire for pleasure. Pleasure and life. We're not going to get into this right now at all. What?
It's like let it be, the song.
Let it be. That the
survival and pleasure.
Pleasure and life are kimat synonymous. In Tanya, in Chassidus, the concept of pleasure and life are, for all intents and purposes, 95% of the time, we're going to talk about them synonymously. The desire for pleasure is the desire for life. The desire for life is the desire for pleasure. I know that sounds a bit vague. I do appreciate that. I'm not going to get into it right now. But the Nefesh Bahamis is survival seeking and pleasure seeking, but they're not two things. They're not two things. It's looking to survive and it's looking for pleasure, but we're not going to explain, but that's really that they are one and the same. Life is intrinsically pleasurable. Life is the ultimate pleasure. It might not feel that way, but that's just because we're not thinking straight. Life is the ultimate pleasure. So the Nefesh Bahamis is looking for life, it's looking for pleasure. Okay? Okay, so we're going to jump in now to Perek Beis. The Nefesh Hashemis Yisrael. The second soul. You'll notice that in the first, in chapter 1, he called it Nefesh Achas. We gave a shiur on this a little while ago. Nefesh Achas, everyone knows the difference between cardinal and ordinal numbers. Ordinal is like first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Cardinal is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ordinal is from the word order. So it just means first, second, third, fourth. Cardinal is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it says Nefesh Achas, Nefesh number 1, and then it says Nefesh Shenis, the second soul. Just like in Bereshis, it says B'yom Echad, not B'yom, Yom Echad, and then Yom Sheni. It doesn't make sense. The Meforshim speak about that, yeah? The point is, to cut a long story short, is when we said Nefesh Achas, well, for example, the First World War was only called the First World War once the Second World War began. Before the Second World War began, it was called the Great War, because they were hoping there wouldn't be a rerun. Yeah. Once the Second World War kicked off, now they started calling Freya the First War, the First World War, the First World War. The point is, calling it Nefesh Achas, Shalom Adam, calling it Nefesh Achas is an Indian of perspective, meaning that our perspective, our default perspective as normal human beings is from the eyes of that human soul. That, I don't want to call it the animal soul, but that is really what everyone calls it, the Nefesh Bahamis, but it's mainly called the Nefesh Chiyunis as well. So our default perspective is through the eyes of that soul, meaning the regular Jew is a human being with a neshama. A tzaddik is a neshama that's schlepping along with him a human soul and a body. But that's not us. The perspective of the regular Jew is a human being with all the frailties and chesroinus, lackings of a created mortal being that has a neshama. And our goal is to try our hardest to identify with the neshama, not with the nefesh bahamis. Okay? So now the nefesh hashenis, that's why it's called nefesh hashenis. Nefesh achas is soul number one. That's really who we are. Like, we don't want to say that because it's not really who we are, but that's how we see the world. We look at the world through mortal eyes, yeah, through fleishic eyes. And we have a neshama. So it's called the nefesh hashenis. It's a chelik elikai mimau mamash. It's a chelik, a portion of God above. Okay, I'm going to ask everyone a question. Is this soul created or not? Is it of creation or is it of creator?
Of creator.
Yeah.
Yes. And also it's of creation. It's a complicated being. It's a whole thing. Yeah, it's structured. So when we talk about, there's all levels of it. The essence, its essence is of creator. So when we're talking about the way that when the Tanya talks about it regularly, is the kalim that hold that essence, that essential godliness that is of creator. But the kalim that hold it is of creation. So this being, we say it's of creator when we're talking quickly and not technically, but it has levels that are created. It's not just like a, Casper the Ghost kind of thing. It's a structured entity. It has garments, it has behavior, it has emotions, it has intelligence, it has a ratzon, and it has the neshama of the neshama, which is really called the oineg. That's another word for that would be called emunah. That's where it and God is one, and that's the essence of the soul, and that's of creator, not of creation. Okay.
Everything we're talking about is nefesh shenis right now, though, right? Meaning we're talking about both the most essential aspect of it and the kalim. That's all nefesh shenis.
Yeah, the nefesh hashenis is called. We'll call it the nefesh elokis or the neshama. Its essence is of the creator mamash, but that's just its essence. It's got levels lower than that are of creation, but we talk about it as an uncreated being just when we're not talking so technically. Remember, there's so many ways of cutting everything, so it's all bechinas and it's all relative. So we will talk about it as being of creation, of creator generally, but you should know, and it will answer up quite a lot of questions that pop up to the reader who's paying attention, that it has I mean, the roiv of it is of creation. Okay. Now that we've put these two entities together, yeah, so we're going to say the nefesh shenis, the nefesh elokis is of creator. Okay. And as such, it has no shaykhs to death. Death is not something that it can relate to in any way, shape, or form. The nefesh Bahamis is primarily driven, its desire to be is predicated on the fact that it knows one day it's not going to be. So you could say, if you wanted to really like put it in, in our, simple terms, is that the nefesh Bahamis is scared to death of death. And it's running the show. That fear of death, of its mortality, it's so aware of its mortality, is driving us on that level, completely driving us. I'm going to be dead, will quickly make myself more, make myself eternal, buy property, get my name up on buildings, yeah, make a mark, influence people, live on, yeah. That's all Nefesh Bahamis stuff. Nefesh Elokis is just, I just want to dissolve back into the Boina Shalom. I don't want to be here, Bechar. I don't want to have any being unto my own. I want to, for the Nefesh Elokis, the fact that it's stuck in Kalim is a tsar. You hear the absolute opposite of what's going on inside the Jewish reality, the Jewish experience, is a very human experience of a fear of death that is causing us to try and be as much as we possibly can. And mitzad sheni, a chelik of us that's just like, get me out of here. Let me just merge back into God and have no sense of independent self whatsoever. Two absolute opposites. It's a little more nuanced than the Yetzer Hara Yetzer Tov model that we've grown up with. Not that that doesn't fit in; it does 100%. But we're going much more, much more sophisticated. Okay, so it's a chelik and a kaimimal. That's why I started talking about this idea of it's got a set of it's really of creator, but it has kalim that are of creation. Okay, Kamoisha Kasuv, bi'apav nishmas chayim. That Hashem blew into his nostrils, into his nose, a living soul. Yeah, talking about Adam in Gan Eden. V'ata nefachta bi, and you blew into me. That's another thing. Kamoisha Kasuv b'zoya, man the napach netoichin nafach. It says in the Zohar that when someone blows, they blow from their inner self, perush, from their very inner, that the very essence of the man, his very inner level, comes out when he blows. Yeah, when he blows deep. 1 minute. So see, creation was created with speech, yeah? I don't know if we've spoken about this. Forgive me if we've said these things again, but just we need to say them for every time we repeat them, we need to repeat them another 100 times, at least. Hashem created this world with speech, yeah? But the neshama he didn't create. He said he just blew it in. So we've got two kinds of breath. Before we talk about, well, what should we say first? We've got two kinds of ratzon. Yeah, we spoke about this. You've got what's called the Pnimius Ratzon, and you've got what's called the Chitzonius Ratzon. Pnimius Ratzon is something you want for itself, like ice cream could be a Pnimius Ratzon, just the pleasure. Pleasure is Pnimius Ratzon. It's an end unto itself. Why do you want to eat ice cream? Because it tastes nice. Why do you care about eating something that tastes nice? Because I like it. Why do you like it? Because I like it. Why do you like liking it? I don't know. Just like it. Yeah, that's the end. Yeah, as opposed to why are you on the airplane? Because I need to get to Paris. Why do I go to Paris? Because I want to go to The Alps. Why do you want to go to the Alps? Because I want to go skiing. Why do you want to go skiing? Because I like it. Why do you like liking it? Again, you're back to the same place. So the aeroplane is called Chetzonius Haratzon. Getting in your car to go to the office is called Chetzonius Haratzon. Being in the office is also called Chetzonius Haratzon. Yeah? Being with your family should be called Pnimius Haratzon. It's an end unto itself. So our life divides very cleanly. Sometimes it's quite painful to admit it, but our life divides extremely cleanly into things that we do as an end unto themselves and things that we are doing as a means to an end. Okay? And that's called Pnimius Haratzon and Chitzonius Haratzon. Everyone's clear?
So Pnimius Haratzon is another way of just saying ends and means to end.
My desire for ends and my desire for means ends, yes, 100%. There's also other ways of talking about it as well. Klipa and Kedusha would be another way of talking about it.
So
Now-
Pnimius Haratzon, it means pleasure, and Chetzonius Haratzon means
Get into the
A means to
getting
pleasure.
the
Something.
means to the
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah, Shabbos is tachlis. Shabbos is pleasure, yeah? And the 6 days of the week are typified by what we call malacha. What's malacha? Malacha is processes. Is that right? So you plow so that you can plant. You plant so that you can reap. You reap so that you can gather. You gather so that you can winnow. I think I said the words right, yeah? V'chule, v'chule, until you cook it, and you cook it so you can eat it. That's the end. But all the malachas are processes. They're all means to an end. So the whole inyan of Shabbos is you let go of the means to the end. You're just involved in oina. You're just involved in ends. We could talk about this for hours. I have such a time to say loads of stuff now, but I'm going to be Kovish myself and get back to the point. So we have the inner breath and the outer breath. The outer breath is Hashem's Chetzonius Haratzon. The entire world is made with Hashem's outer breath. That's the breath of speech. That's why, as we know, those of us who are married, that people can speak for a very, very long time. Yeah. You just sit there and nod and go, yeah. And there's no end to how long speech can go on for. Yeah. Because it's from a Chetzonius breath. It's an external breath. It's not using a deep breath, so you can just keep talking on and on and on and on and on. Yeah. This whole world is Chetzonius Haratzon. The entire world is mamash, a means to an end. What's the end? The end is the neshama. That's the Pnimius Haratzon. The point of the world is a chasna between Kudsha Brechu Shchinte. It's in the Kodesh Baruch Hu and the Shechina Kedosha. That's the point of the world. You could call that Dir B'Tachtonim. You could call that a lot of different things. But that's Alpi Kabbalah. It's the Zivug of Za and Nuk, okay, which we call Kudsha Brechu Shchinte. It's the chasna of the Kodesh Baruch Hu and the Shechina, which really means the merging of creator with creation. Okay? The neshama is the inner breath. It's the Pnimius Haratzon. The neshama is the Shechina Kedosha. It's more complicated than that, but for how we're understanding it right now, we can call it that. Yeah? It was the Shechina being breathed into man, so to speak. That's the Jewish soul being put into man. So now this is exactly the whole point we've said now. So the whole world is a means to an end. All of creation, that doesn't just mean all of the 90 billion light years of Olam Hazeh. That's referring, but remember, this is a really good thing to think about, yeah? You know how big 90 billion light years is? You know how like big distance that is? Nor do I. Yeah, but I'll give you one little, there's a little moshel that we've said many times that I love that helps us. This is called his boinaness, yeah? To just get a little taste for the size of the universe, okay? Take a drop of water, like a pipette, one single drop of water, yeah? And compare that drop of water to the entire Pacific Ocean. Okay? Now there's a ratio there. I wouldn't like to write it out, yeah, but there's a ratio there, yeah? Now take that Pacific Ocean and size it up to the same ratio as a second Pacific Ocean. So that Pacific Ocean is a drop compared to the second Pacific Ocean. And take that second Pacific Ocean and do the same thing to a third and final Pacific Ocean, yeah? Now take the initial drop that we took and compare it to that third and final Pacific Ocean. That is, I mean, I don't know who said this. Someone said it. I'm just taking their word for it, yeah? I never measured it myself. But that is the difference between planet Earth and the entire universe. That concept of space. A drop compared to the Pacific Ocean, that Pacific Ocean being a drop compared to a second Pacific Ocean, and the second Pacific Ocean being a drop compared to the third Pacific Ocean. So that is what we call Olam Hazeh, yeah? That is a point. You know what a point is? So, Boch, can you on mute? Square. That a point has no length and breadth and depth. A point doesn't really exist. Yeah, it's a coordinate. You learn that from Photoshop, because if you make a point and you zoom in and in and in and in, it never gets bigger. It's always a coordinate. It's not a dot, because a dot, if you go in closer and closer, it gets bigger and bigger. A coordinate. So that's just that 90 billion light years of Olam Hazeh is a nakuda in the higher part of Olam Ha'asiyah. You've got the four Olamas, you've got Atzilus, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. So the lower half of Asiyah, I'm not sure if it's exactly half, the lower part of Asiyah is the physical, phenomenological world that we live in, yeah? The higher part of Asiyah is already a spiritual world, where space isn't space is a completely different thing at the next level. So this entire world, in the Pacific Ocean thing we said, is a nakuda in the higher level of this same world. Now compare that to the world of Yetzirah, and that to the world of Bria, and that to the Olam Atzilus, and we start to get a little feel when we think about it in those terms for just how big creation is. We thought the universe was mind-blowing and astronomical and staggering and all those fancy scientific words, yeah? But it doesn't even exist compared to the next level just above it, and so on and so forth. So all of that was just so that the neshama could be blown into this 90 kilos I'm trying to work on, piece of flesh that can now bind itself back with him. I always thought, you imagine there was a story of John Lennon. Yeah, I think you can say Yamach Shemoy by him. But I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but
called him the Russian.
What?
Rabbi Victor Miller called him the Russia.
I call him the Russia. So Victor Miller, I think that's a fair enough statement. But anyway, so he, like, one time, I mean, he had like endless money basically, and there was a story that he flew over his wife's fur coat from America. Like, he hired a jumbo jet to fly over her fur coat or something like that. You ever thought about what it would mean, the difference between having infinite money and being like Jeff Bezos? You realize the difference there. Having infinite money, yeah, that's the inyan, that Ribbono Shel Olam has infinite energy, infinite power, infinite resources, whatever. So in that case, you can do, and that's what he did. So creation is unfathomable, but that's just all a means to an end. What's the end? is Nishmas Yisrael. That there should be a chasna between Nishmas Yisrael and Kudsha B'rechu, between the Shechina Kedosha and between the Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's the pneumius that's the pneumius of Ratzon, and that's why Hashem blew the neshama into us, and He spoke creation into being. Okay, we'll go weiter. Kach al derech moshel, Nishmas Yisrael alu b'machshava k'dichsiv b'nei b'chol Yisrael. So Nishmas Yisrael went up in his machshava. We're not going to get into that right now. Not that I understand what that means anyway. Banim atem l'Hashem Elokeichem. We are called His children. Perush. K'moisha ben nimshach mimoyach ha'av. Just like the ben, the zera is nimshach, it is drawn down from the brain of the father. Yeah, and it is. That's what we call the pituitary gland. Yeah, that's responsible for producing the zera. It's part of the endocrine system. Okay, so that actually generates a zera, whether it's an actual thing like what it comes out as there, I don't know, but whatever it is, that's where it comes from. So it comes down from the mind through the goof and then out of the ava. Yeah, just like the child is drawn from the brain of the father, so too, you could say, Nishmas kol ish Yisrael, the neshama of every Yisrael, is drawn from the thought and the chokhmah of the Rabbeinu Shalom. That he is wise without a chokhmah that we have any musag in. He and his wisdom is one. We're going to unpack this. But it's he is the one who knows. So he is the power of knowing. He is the one who knows, and he is what is being known, meaning that he's one. Everything is one. He never experiences anything outside of himself. It's not within the capabilities of man to understand this clearly, but we can understand it to some level, and we, according to many tzaddikim, are chayav to strive to understand it as well. Yeah, like somebody who searches for Hashem is going to find it, and like my machshavas are not like your machshavas. Okay, let's just hold here for a minute. So we're going to be speaking. There's five levels to the neshama. Okay, and don't if you know any Kabbalah and whatever, then we can break it down into endless parts. It depends what you're looking from. Sometimes there's 4 parts, and sometimes you speak of 3 parts, and then we break each part down into parts, and so it gets very complicated. So we're trying to make it easy for ourselves for the sake of understanding. Okay. We've got a breakdown of 5. Yeah. Nefesh is the lowest part. Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida. People have heard these words before, yeah? Everyone's familiar with these words? Bit, somewhat, yeah.
Can you say them again? Nefesh, Ruach.
Nefesh from down up. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida.
Thank you.
Now, Rav Aryeh Kaplan gives a fantastic moshel he brings from the Zohar. I didn't see it in the Zohar. I saw it in what's that book?
Jewish meditation.
No.
Anatomy of the Soul by Rebbe Kramer.
No.
Avram Kaplan.
Inner Space.
Oh yeah.
Inner Space is a tremendous sefer that people should dedicate a lot of time to. I'm actually in the middle of speaking it into a microphone so I could give it to the Chevra, but I've been in the middle of doing that for about a year and a half. So anyway, so he explains very clearly. So he gives the moshel, and it's amazing. He brings from the Zohar, but I didn't see it inside, of a glass blower blowing into glass. Okay, it looks like a balloon, like a boiling hot balloon. Yeah. So he has a machshava. The first thing is he has a machshava that he's going to blow into the glass. Yeah. Then he musters the breath from inside. Then he starts blowing into the glass. Okay. So in the moshel, the yechida is the machshava in his mind. Now, you can't separate a machshava from a brain. They are mamash bound up with each other exclusively. That's the yechida. That's the highest level of the soul. The next level, the chaya, is the air inside of the glass blower. Obviously, the glass blower is the Shem in the Moshe. Yeah, the air inside of the glass blower. It's still inside the glass blower. It's of the creator. That is the chaya. And those are the two levels of the soul that we basically say are not of creation, they're of creator. Yeah, definitely the yechida, and in many ways the chaya as well. As the glass blower starts blowing, there's an element of air on his lips. That's the connection between the air that's left him and the air that's inside him. That's called the neshama. Then you have the air that's traveling down the tube. That's called the ruach. And then you have the air that finally lands in the vessel. That's called the nefesh.
What was the air going down the tube again?
That's called the ruach.
And then
the nefesh is the air that is nikla, that has not gathered, that is, ends up in the vessel, in the glass, in that like hot looking balloon that you don't want to go near. Okay. So listen to the two masham. You hear the two masham that the Rebbe just gave us? He gave us the moshel of the blowing, yeah, v'yapach bi'apov, and of the machshava. He just spoke about the essence of the nefesh in complete code. Just, you would never know that if you didn't understand this moshel that we just spoke about. So the Rebbe just gave us the two ikka mashalim for the essence of the neshama. It's compared to his breath, his boach, and to his machshav and to his chokhmah.
So this is the essence of what again?
This is the essence of the nefesh elokis. What we call in like common parlance the neshama. This is what makes you Jewish. Definition of a Jew is a human being with one of these. That is the definition of a Jew. Definition of a non-Jew is a human being. We have got much more in common with the Umas Olam than a lot of us think. A lot more. So he's basically said, by quoting the Rambam, saying that the Rambam describes Hashem as Hamada v'Hayodeya v'Adeya. That by saying that, he's explaining that the essence of our neshama, the essence of the nefesh hakis, is echad yachid and miyuchad. It's mamash bound up and is one with the creator. It's not of creation, it's of creator. Okay? Now the Rebbe is going to ask a big kasha that I'm sure everyone was thinking about, yeah? But the kasha is that he just said this is all one. It's mamash one, just like Hashem is one, the neshama is one. It comes from a place of oneness, and it is one, and one. Yeah. How can it be? There's all these madregas of neshamas. So he says va'af, and even sheyesh revavois minei chalukei madregas b'neshamas b'gevoya. There's endless, tens of thousands of levels of breakdowns of different levels of neshamas, higher and higher. Le'ein kates, k'moy goydel milas nishmas ha'avos, so Moshe Rabbeinu, like, let's compare the neshamas of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yankov to Moshe Rabbeinu, alav shalom. Our neshamas doyuseinu, eile, the ikvei Mashiach, shem b'chinas ikvei mamash. To us, the ikvei Mashiach, you can't compare our neshamas to those neshamas. Those neshamas were, and we are, I mean, you know, neshama's a neshama, but no one would think of comparing us to the avos, yeah? And then he goes,
when did the ikvus of the Mashiach start? And
good question. I don't know, but I know where we are right now. You know, I have to just read this because it's just something I discovered today. 1 minute. Every now and again, when I find something moiridic, I print it out and I put it in my, I actually print it out and put it in my notebook. So I printed this out. It's
just to sharpen my question a bit, are we really at the same stage as the Balatanya, or have we progressed since then? Is the Ikvus of the Mashiach a spectrum, a progress, or is it one stage?
Well, I mean, you could just answer that by looking at your body. Does it just begin, or is there does it connect to the foot at some point and then merge to the higher level? And obviously, it's you know, I don't know the answer to the question, but we're in the Ikvud the Mashiach right now, and the Balatanya said many times that he was in Ikvud the Mashiach. But also, I think Kedmonim also said they were a bit Ikvud the Mashiach. I don't know, but listen to what he says here. This will tie in with the Chevra who's holding in now what we learn. It's a random halacha in Kilayim. I'm learning the Rambam, yeah. So in Kilayim, Hilchos Kilayim, Perek Yud, halacha Tesvav. Minalshu Kilayim, ve'ein loy okev mutal lavshu. That a shoe that is made of Kilayim. This is, by the way, off topic. I'm just wondering, but I was so excited when I saw this. A shoe that is made of Kilayim that doesn't have a heel is mutter to wear. Why? She'or haregel, the skin of the foot, kashehu, it's hard. Ve'einu ner, it doesn't experience pleasure, kisha or haguf, like the rest of the flesh, the rest of the skin of the body. You remember, Michael Yitzi, you're with this, and maybe Baruch as well. We've spoken about how this generation is special. One of the reasons we're special is that we've overdosed on pleasure. We don't care, or not we don't care about pleasure anymore. We are the first generation, I think, that ever existed that have the potential of going beyond pleasure, because no one knows pleasure like we know pleasure. No one has pleasure like we've had pleasure. So we're the first generation, the Hamon Am, yeah, maybe the nobles of the older generations, but still not. It was nothing like what we have today. Yeah, like just Mazgan. Imagine you have this, you know, this fat guy blowing you with a fan the whole time, as opposed to just the Mazgan. You know, it's a different thing, an air conditioner. So we are the first generation who have the potential of going beyond pleasure. Just like the rich man knows that money does not answer up any choshev questions. Answer is not the answer to any important issues. Yeah, the poor man thinks that money will answer up all his problems. It will give him shalom bayis. It will help his children be firm. It will get his sick child well. Money's the answer to all the problems. Yeah, but a rich man knows that money isn't the answer to any serious problems. No serious problems are answered with money. Yeah, so us too in our generation, where we've overdosed on pleasure, we now can potentially go beyond that. And that's what the Rambam says here, that the heel of the foot doesn't experience pleasure like the skin of the rest of the body. And therefore it's mutter to wear kilayim on the foot if it doesn't have a heel. Where is it? I just thought it was on topic, and I thought I'd share that with you. But anyway, so we're called the Ikvud the Mashiach, and for better and worse, we know that Adam HaRishon was folded when he got put in the kever because his feet went back to his head, which is the metzach of Ak, which is the highest level, v'chule, v'chule. Either way, the Rebbe goes on, okay? If that wasn't enough, yeah, Shehem b'chinas ikvayim mamash legabe hamoyach v'haroish. Avram, Yitzchak, Yankov, and Moshe, v'chule, and that chevra, they were like the rosh, and we were like the feet. V'chein kol dor v'dor yesh roshei alufei Yisrael shesmoseihem hein b'chinas rosh u'moyach legabe neshamas hahamoin v'amei aretz. And also in every generation, you've got the Evadia Yosefs, you've got the Morgensterns and the Svima Zilberbergs and the Chofetz Chaims and the v'chule, and then you got like us guys, yeah. So not only have we got this generational discrepancy, but on a generation level, within each generation, you have different madregas. You've got the high ones, you've got the low ones, yeah. And then Vaita goes on, v'chein nefashos legabe nefashos, and even within each neshama. Ki kol nefesh kludem nefesh ruach neshama, that every nefesh is comprised of nefesh ruach neshama. He doesn't speak about Hayy Yechida really in the whole book, but again, we're talking about madregas and levels, so everything's a kasha now. But Mikol Makom, now he answers. Mikol Makom, Shoresh Kol and Nefesh Ruach Neshama Kulam, that the Shoresh of every Nefesh Ruach Neshama, all of them, Meroish Kol Madregas Ad Sof Kol Dargin, from the highest of the high to the lowest of the low. Hamalibish Beguf Amei Aretz V'Kasha B'Kalim, the lowest of the low is what's enclosed in the very lowly Jews. Nimshach Memoicha Elyoin, they all are drawn from Moicha Elyoin, Shi Chochme Ilah, which is called the mystical level of Chochmeh Ilah. We'll talk about that later. B'ezrat Hashem. Kivyochel, Kamosh Leben and Nimshach Memoicha Av. Just like the child is drawn from the mind of the father, like we said, the seed is drawn from the mind of the father. Sha'afilu Tzipone Raglav, even the toenails, yeah, Nishavu Matipa Zu Mamash, are formed from this brain stuff. The zera is like the same substance of the brain. It's like a genetic code. It's hardly a chomer. Yeah, like the brain, the matter of the brain is very elevated matter. The toenails, on the other hand, are extremely coarse, but they somehow materialized from that very sublime, elevated matter. They came from it. You would never be able to imagine such a thing, holding a toenail next to the matter of a brain, that the toenail could have come from such a place, but it did. Let's just finish off 1 minute. Metipazu mamash. Oh, Yidei sheisa teisha chadoshim bebeten aim, because it was 9 months in the stomach of the mother. V'yoda madregla madregan, it went down from level to level. Lishtanois this havois memenet tziponaim, until it changed, so to speak, and the tziponaim, the nails became manifest. So let's just unpack this quickly and we'll finish. That the shoresh of the neshama of every single Jewish neshama is from the Rebbeinu Shalom himself. We call it Chochmeh Ilah, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, call it. It's also called Chochmeh Betzilus, the highest levels. Yeah, it's all from there, just like your brain. And a seed is sent down from the brain, goes through, comes out of the man, it goes into the nekeva, and it goes into the beten, and it's given length and breadth and depth until it ends up with hair and nails, etc. Yeah. So too, the neshama comes down through the worlds. It's born in the highest levels of Atzilus, maybe beyond that even, but he just talks about the highest level of Atzilus. It comes all the way down to Atzilus, where it's kind of given birth to from Malchus of Atzilus into Bria, comes down through Bria, through Yetzirah, comes down through Yetzirah, through Asiya, comes down through Asiya, comes down into this physical sensory world. And this is a Moedika thing. Just bear with me for another couple of moments and then we'll finish. What's the difference between a great soul and a not so great soul? A regular soul comes down through Atzilus, comes down through Bria, picks up sediment in Bria, comes down through Yetzirah, picks up more sediment in Yetzirah, finally goes all the way through Asiya, picks up a bunch more sediment in Asiya, and then lands in the goof of the Yid. So it picked up. It's not right to call it klipa, but it picked up. What?
They're like obstacles. They're not like Tzimtzumim, but there's some sort of obstacles.
Yeah, the best way of saying it is like sediment. I can't think of another way. I can't think of the word in Hebrew to use. But it picks up something that by the time it gets down to our level, it's kind of enclosed, it's kind of covered over. That's a low soul picked up sediment from all of the worlds.
Are
And by
those
the time it-
Klipos?
no, it's not right to call it Klippa. It's not right to call
Mm.
it. It's not. That's not the right word.
It's schmutz.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying. I don't want to use the wrong word because I'm not sure what the word is, so I don't want to use I'll use the English word, then I'm safe. So it's like a sediment, yeah, and it picks up and it covers over the neshama in a certain way that by the time it lands in a very lowly person, it's not really heard of too much. It can't make so much noise. Its voice has become very soft. You can't hear it. Masha Ein Kain, a big tzaddik, yeah, a gewaldige tzaddik like Moshe Rabbeinu, his neshama came from Atzilus, yeah. It kind of skipped through Bria, skipped through Yetzirah, skipped through Asiya, and landed in his goof how it was back mamash in Chochmah Elah. And this is the inyan of Devekas to the tzaddikim. The inyan of being close to the tzaddik is that your neshama feels back at home. It reminds being with a neshama that is still of Atzilus, that hasn't been covered over in any way, makes your neshama, or reminds your neshama of what it was by the Kisei covered, by where it was with Rabboni Sholem. That's the mystical level of being with the tzaddikim. The draw to the tzaddik is that you feel like you're back home. You feel like you went back to Rabboni Sholem. It's not because he's got fancy words and he's articulate and he's he's nice to look at or any of these things. He eats like with his eyes closed and he brings it to his mouth. Yeah, it's none of that stuff. It's that being with him reminds your neshama of what it was like back home, where it came from. Atzilus in Chochmah Atzilus, Chochmah Elah. Yeah. Okay, we'll hold it. B'ezrat Hashem, we'll continue next week. Is there any questions?
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Rebbe.
Just for that, Issachar, that I give a shir in a yeshiva across the road, about. I started giving a shir about a year ago to his kollel, a lovely Ehrliche Yidden Litvische kollel, yeah, but lovely guys. And I started giving the shir, and I had a whole bunch of people come, and I came home to my wife, and I said it was possibly the most special experience of my life. And she was like, why? And I said it felt like a bunch of Yidden who've been involved in Torah for their whole lives. It looked mamash, it looked like a bunch of deer lapping water for the first time. It was amazing. So I forgot about that until a couple of weeks ago when it was a new Zman, so a bunch of new guys came again, and it was the same experience. And the way you just said that was the same inyan of, this is just Torah Chasidus. This is mamash what the Baal Shem Tov brought to the world. And this is where we're zoicha to. It's the biggest schus that we can have. The payers and the socks and the strimal is nothing to do with Chasidus. Nothing. This is Chasidus. Chasidus is mamash bringing down from the Mayan of the Baal Shem Tov, who brought it down from Achia Shaloni, that was kashor to Moshe Rabbeinu, who heard it Mepia Gevura. It's the Rabboni Sholem. That's what Chasidus.
So what does the dress accomplish then?
It's nice.
The mask.
Gives you a club to belong to.
I don't like tribalism. No. Tribalism is very big in humanity.
But it's very important not to get caught up in it. It's definitely not an end unto itself. It's
I know I feel like more of a mensch when I'm wearing a white shirt. I can't deny that.
Yeah, that's true. That's for sure true. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Rebbe.